Welcome back to the Low APM Challenge. We've escaped from the Bronze League, but we have yet to reach Masters. We're climbing the ladder, working smarter and not harder. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but we're going to avoid building Zerglings, and we're going to use that as a springboard into the higher leagues. So first, before I lose your attention, my challenge Zerg friends, make sure to smash that like button like you forget metabolic boost. And make sure to subscribe like it's a creep tumor you're spreading with 3,000 minerals. Angry Coach has given us a lot of data to work with, as has SC2 replay stats, and we're gonna put it all together and still fail to stay under the APM limits as we challenge these Terrans and Protoss and occasionally other Zergs in what is hopefully the Platinum League. Bobby had some time. He finally was able to press the reset button on the rankings. So leave that league and disappoint yourself yet again, my friends, because everything's working just fine. No, they're not Smurfs. They just actually watched more than 4 minutes of the Low APM Challenge. And so can you. Just simply do nothing. That's all you got. Just keep watching. Don't go anywhere. This was a test. Welcome back to the Low APM Challenge. Zerg Edition. We've made it to Platinum, and while this doesn't end here, everything past it is just combining it all together. Let's recap. Let's spend a little time on what we've learned so far. Queens, larva, creep. When? You gotta respect your larva, you gotta respect your queens, and you have to calm down on the creep spread. Creep spread is important, but when you don't know how to use the minimap, and you don't build enough units, not so much. So in that order, queens, larva, and then creep. Hatchery hotkeys, how do they work? Camera hotkeys, how do they work? And getting into the habit of using them so you can avoid the bad ones. Basic scouting, are they expanding? Are they not? That's most of it. Past that, maybe are there drops, air units, but let's not get too complicated. Drones? Not drones. Always an important question. One we'll answer yet again. Overlords. There's only so many spots for them to go to look over their city and very dramatically say profound things from a perch. Like, wow, that's a lot of SCVs you got there. And that's how Overlords sound. Or something like, blah, blah, blah. Mechanics are everything. Getting those injects. Upgrades. Overlords. It's very important for Zerg to be out ahead of their production because of how larva works. Once again, respecting your larva. Something that especially Angry Coach has taught us not a lot of Zerg players do. So we're going to focus on that even more today. The tech tree. It's not a tech bush. It's a tree. You don't need to go in every direction. You gotta have a specific game plan, and that game plan is usually gonna be Roach, Hydra, and then into Vipers and Lurkers. But depending on the situation, we're gonna have Corruptors and possibly Broodlords. Outside of that is some specific cases. Sometimes it's just Queens. Occasionally we need those Banelings. But that's most of the focus today. Production upgrade targets. Honestly, just getting them at all. Spending your money. Getting those upgrades. Not forgetting the upgrades until 3 minutes after you built a Hydra den and then being like, well, maybe now's a good time. Yeah, it's better late than never, but it's late. And then, of course, reinforcing the good habits. Getting a little better about spreading out those overlords. Some more larva inject tips. Late game army and control. That doesn't mean flying your Vipers into turrets. It means building Vipers and then not flying them into turrets. That's most of it. And then advanced benchmarks like, when do we get 70 drones? How many queens? When is a hive? What is a hive? Question that some players might be asking. And so much more. Well, so, all with, well, less than 105 APM is the goal. Because right now, I believe we should be in Platinum. We'll see if Bobby's new ranking system, and by new, I mean old, will place appropriately, but that's what we're aiming for, though this is the Zerg challenge, with just simply the way Zerg works. The amount of effort you gotta put in just to build the simplest little Zergling. It does mean that it is notoriously harder to maintain that limit. So, if you're watching live, well, thank you. And also, this is your best chance to get those subs. Because I think I failed the Zerg challenge more than Terran and Protoss combined, at least so far. But here's the thing. I wanna get this out of the way. The point of this is not just... Maybe some point I'll do the lowest APM possible challenge, which is literally exactly as much APM as you need to win, and nothing more. But the point is, we're trying to have enough APM to do everything you need to do in a normal game to win. So I'm trying not to skip anything. And I think with Terran and Protoss especially, I've done a good job of hitting almost all the marks you need in a, quote, normal game to win. Zerg gets a little more convoluted, and that's why so few people play Zerg, especially in the lower leagues, because they're like, well, that looks confusing. You know why? Because it kind of is. So, credit to you, my big-brained friend. We're playing Zerg, and now we're going to try to graduate from the spawning pool all the way up the tech tree. Protoss. Yeah, we have a lot of questions, especially about the late game from YouTube and in general. We'll see if on Pride of Altaris, our Protoss friend here, will be able to show us what to do.
Need more minerals for that.
So we're setting up... I'm like, oh yeah, now I need to talk. We don't just sit here. Setting up camera locations for those first 3 bases. Well, actually, first 4. I like to use the drag scroll on my mouse. We actually do got a question about that. I'll go more in depth at the end. Don't skip there now. But I've set the drag scroll to the side mouse button. It is by default the middle mouse button, but I find that a little more difficult to press. So I also use it a lot for casting and observing. Drag scroll grabs your mouse in the center of the screen, or wherever it is, and it moves the camera from the center of the screen like this, which takes no APM, by the way, because I didn't have any effect on the game. Just in case you were wondering. Like, doing this, 0 APM. Because what am I actually doing, besides giving people an epileptic fit? Not much. But, yeah, we'll go over the different ways of moving the camera. I use all of them pretty often, but drag scroll is more for setting camera locations and occasionally moving a little bit for selection, but I don't know if it's a good or bad or just neutral habit, but a lot of the edge scrolling. Make sure to turn that sensitivity up. Hitting 4 Zerglings. We look over here, gonna go to the pervert pillar, see everything we expect to see. A couple more drones. Pull drones out of gas. We are getting Zergling speed. This is just... So, the limit will be 8 Zerglings. 8 brave Zerglings. I will make more if I need to. Oh, nope, it's fine. Trust. So, it's very important in gameplay options to turn on Flyer Helper. You see the icon? That's where, like, compared to the ground, that is where the air unit is. That's used for aiming corrosive bile as well, storm, stuff like that.
We need more minerals.
Those are both. What? It's not optional, in my opinion. Like, some players will have it on selected. Some players don't have it on at all, and then I see them aiming those corrosive biles way off the mark, because you can't shoot at the Overlord, you have to shoot where it is on the ground, for example. So that is a Stargate, based on the way it is, and you can actually see what he builds out of the Stargate, though it's a Void Ray. So we're just going to keep these OVs back at home. Make sure we got those queens in production. And a Void Ray is, well, one, we don't need any more Zerglings. We can expect to lose that OV. In fact, I'm just going to go send it in, even though it's going to start getting hit by the Stalker.
Got a new queen leading the pack.
Just injecting with everything, and then bringing all my queens together in that select all queens key. A forge. I'm going to send my Zerglings out to patrol for a third. Because that's the most important info. Spore 20. Like, while Void Rays are not very scary on your mineral line, it's not something you want to let build up. He's got an Adept here. I'm going to get a Roach Warren, an Evo Chamber. We're going to start a lair here.
We need more minerals. Can't need more minerals for that.
Start a little creep spread. I'm just going to creep between my bases. Let me get those gases. Yes. 33 drones is a bit on the high side, and I should have already been mining gas in here. I do think I've been a little lax on the actual build orders for Zerg, and that kind of is how Zerg works, but mostly it's just me being lazy and explaining it. So I will try to do a little better. We now have, so the target is going to be 66 drones. We're going to go for 66 drones, which is 3 base saturation. You got 16 on minerals, you got 6 on gas. So you got essentially everything you need on each base. Now, of course, every time you build a building, that is minus drones, right? So, something to note. We are going to get the Hydra Den. I'm going to get another set of Lings for scouting. We're going to get Overlord speed now. I have it, I switched the hotkey to C, which I find easier. Like, my layer hotkey is on F as well. Some injects. So I need to know right now. Look at all that money in the bag. What's it gonna be? He's got 2 Void Rays, but that doesn't really tell me anything. This Zergling is hopefully going to be... Well, he blocked the base. Making a round of roaches. We're gonna get these upgrades. I can take this hatchery as well. Queue up both Hydra upgrades here.
Under attack.
He's got the Void Rays in the main, but we already have the creep, so we just get underneath them. Making some Hydralisks here. I'm gonna have these planes stop by the hatch. It queues up an inject, which means it will activate after. Even if I tactically forget to inject for a little bit, I will still have, potentially, injects for a little while. This is actually something Serral... If I just say Serral does it, then people will take it as face value. But Serral actually does this when he's building up to do a big attack with his queens. He'll go back and he'll just slap half his energy of injects into the hatches, and then pull all the queens to the front. Of course, Serral will then remember to bring the queens back when he needs injects again, instead of losing them all to zealots, but... I mean, we can't all be Serral, so...
Depleted that mineral cluster.
I'm gonna remember the Patroller Lords. Now, it's a little harder to do Patroller Lords when he has Void Rays, but...
Our base is under attack.
Speaking of Void Rays...
Not enough energy.
So, I'm just going to attack. We need more queens. I lost my spawning pool, which means no more spores. I guess he's giving us the opportunity to show off our anti-Void Ray strats. He's going straight for the hatch. There's a recall.
Brand new evolution over here.
He has that base. So that means we need way more queens, and right now, until he gets Storm, I can go Hydras, which I'm rallying from the eggs here. I need more queens. I'm just gonna queue up even more. The queens are my home defense. We have a hive coming up. So, if you watch that video on Serral completely dismantling max packs, well, I'm not going to be able to pull that off with low APM or otherwise. But the key part is Vipers. The Vipers with Parasitic Bomb and Queens for just general defense. So, I am adding Vipers in. I'm going to get some more spores.
Depleted that mineral cluster.
We're going to get +3 attack. Honestly, against Void Rays, attack upgrades here, I think, are heavily prioritized because most of the damage, like, either I crush the fight or I lose horribly. Those are my options. I don't really think there's much in between on that. It isn't, and a lot of the damage from Protoss comes from things like Storm that Carapace upgrades don't matter much against. Well, they don't matter at all against Storm, but...
Cluster depleted.
Gonna get a Lurker Den and a Spire. I believe he does have that Storm, though, which is unfortunate.
Depleted that mineral cluster.
We're gonna try to use some changelings here. Whatever I do, I can't just fight into a defensive position. That's how I lose the game and never get my army back. So he's making more Archons. Alright, there's going to be an opportunity to use Corruptors here. I want to get some Parasitic Bomb action going on. We're just going to throw a few on the Void Rays. And then back off. These are some battery chargers here. So, I need to add a few more Vipers in. I'm actually going to add Zerglings now. Just something to get in the way that doesn't cost gas. I probably should just get a Baneling nest. few more Hydras. I need to have enough parasitic bombs. I'm adding corruptors in as well.
Mutation complete.
Yep, there's a lot of steps. Make sure we're mining the gas wherever I can. We can actually have renewable energy here.
Our base is under attack.
Alright, we're gonna let that base go in favor of trying to get more done with Parasitic Bomb, which is the highest priority. He doesn't seem to be respecting them at all, so just keep throwing them out there. He doesn't seem to be acknowledging they exist, so we're gonna pull back and target fire.
Depleted that mineral cluster.
Add a couple more Vipers in. Gonna transfuse these. Greater Spire. Baneling speed. So I dismantled the army. The worst thing I can do right now, if I'm okay economically, is do a haphazard attack. Like, just running up. I want to make sure he doesn't take another base, but right now, we're working the Broodlords. So, the Broodlords are the anti-ground. Then just Corruptor Viper is your anti-air. If he doesn't have any splash damage, the Roach Hydra can be allowed to fight here. Yeah, he just has a whole bunch of Zealots. I'm gonna control click. Get a few lurkers here. I didn't actually get the lurker upgrades because I didn't plan on using them, but here we are. I'm gonna use select all army and then control click the Vipers and then move them out of the control shift click. Move them out of the main group.
That mineral cluster's mined out.
We're gonna pull back, let the lurkers do their thing. They killed the Templar. We're gonna abduct.
Brand new evolution over here.
Melee attack upgrade. More Corruptor upgrades. And now, I'm gonna build Broodlords.
These Zerg just mutated again. That
I'm gonna get some creep, and then send the queens to the front as well.
Depleted that mineral cluster. That command's no good, boss. Mineral cluster depleted.
Make sure I have some more Overseers.
Evolution's complete. Got all out of here.
Unfortunately, just made more Void Race. But I think I have enough Corruptors to deal with it. And we can get some creep over here. So they can actually transfuse. Is this enough for Parasitic Bomb? Which I kind of made the mistake of not having. I didn't even mean to bring the Ovies, but...
Your forces are under attack. No good, boss. Mineral cluster depleted.
Making more corruptors.
Got forces under attack. Mutation complete. Man, I wish I hadn't seen that.
Focusing more on the outlying bases. Try to get rid of the detection as well. There go the observers.
Mutation complete. That mineral cluster's mined out.
Transfuse.
Your forces are under attack.
Burrow.
Mineral cluster depleted. Got forces under attack out there.
Oh, he's got that gold. I thought he might have the top right, but I didn't think he'd have this base.
Enemies
That
taking
explains a
fly
bit.
swatter to our drones.
I'm making a bunch of roaches at home here.
Your forces are under
This is
attack.
obviously desperation, so I just need to make sure we deal with it.
Your forces are under attack.
So that was I think we are gonna have to revise, because we are right on the edge. It is complicated, it is difficult, and it is not statistically accurate with the Zerg. I was having a conversation beforehand, but 105 APM is actually significantly lower than the average of both Europe and NA in Platinum. And I do feel like, unlike Terran and Protoss, I guess Zerg just needs more APM, and it is because of those mechanics. And just how building units, for example, is just so much more. So, I think, I'll just real quick find the number, see if I can make a good excuse for it. Here we are. Because with Terran and Protoss, we are about 5 to 10 APM under the average for the league. But for Zerg right now, let's see. As of last year, when the ranking system was mostly working, especially in Platinum, a Platinum Zerg was usually closer to 130 average. So I'm gonna adjust to 120 for the interests of edutainment. This is out of about 100,000 games. A little lower in ZVZ. I'm not sure why mirror matchups are usually lower, but the same is true for all three races. So, we can add, fun fact, Europe and NA are within 2 APM of each other in every league up to GM, where NA is actually a higher APM. Fun fact. Very fun. So fun. But yeah, combining in Europe, add almost double the games, similar stats. I think 120 is reasonable, though I will gift the subs to the people. Oh, Zerg, why do you gotta be so complicated? Because I really don't want to be intentionally skipping things. And I feel I'm doing a disservice to the Zerg players. And I think, personally, no kappa, as the kids say. In Platinum, the Zerg players need the most help. Like, of all the races that could benefit from a more complete guide, it is the Zergs. So, I've altered the deal to 120. Pray I do not alter it any further. Against Terran. So, I am torn. Once again, another complicated Zerg thing. But I am torn. Because Roach Hydra is just not very good against Terran. It's much better. Thank you, Dr. Kippy. It's much better against Zerg and Protoss. Zergling, Baneling. And then Hydralisks is a better strat against Terran, especially as time goes on. So we're gonna do a test here. Get that 17. 17, 17, 17 is the build. I am going to break my rule. We're breaking all the rules tonight. Yeah, rules that I set. I'm gonna break my rule, and I'm going for a Hydra Ling Bane build. Into lurkers. Relatively quick lurkers, because lurkers will break the brain of those Terran players. You know how bad Widow Mines are. Now imagine if Widow Mines had 10 times the range.
New subscriber.
The key to lurkers is, one, actually burrowing them. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I know that sounds dumb, but a lot of players I see are religiously addicted to the select all army hotkey, and that ends up really making their late game suffer. But I don't want to make this entire video about Loco. Just generally, with most unit compositions, you can just tab to the lurkers, and we're actually going to go over this, but they have a different burrow key. And by different burrow key, I mean you can press the burrow key and it just burrows the lurkers. You do have to be, it takes a little practice. But since lurkers come with burrow, they can't, they're very greedy though. They don't teach it to the rest of the Zergs. They keep it for themselves. No, my drone! I was trying to send the drone out in time to take my third. I got my 4 Lings here. We'll see if this guy is indeed Clem. So far not. But we're gonna cancel. And so I got a few really good questions about what to do with your first queen over here, right? I prefer injecting. Once again, one of the things, like, creep spread is important, but I think the most important thing is getting a solid drone count before the game really starts out. You can still get a similar drone count if you don't use an inject on this first queen, but it does give you a lot of buffer. And the only way the creep spread is going to be worth it to get that early is if you're able to keep up on it. Otherwise, if your intent is to eventually creep, like, around your bases, a 20-second, 30-second delay is not going to make a huge difference overall. It's only for, like, Serral and Scarlett against Clem where that having creep halfway across the map is required, because otherwise you can literally never kill their Marines. So.
Got a new queen leading the pack. Need more overlords. Don't really know how.
Get those overlords. I like to... Well, this is going to be a patroller lord. There you go. And this one as well. Let's take a look. All I see is a Marine. Scouts and drones. We're looking at it.
All out of energy. Not enough energy.
I'm going to get a safety warren now. And Spore 20. The intent is... Oh, that's a Marauder. Alright, that's all I need to know. Baneling nest. A Marauder means he has a Tech Lab barracks. And having a Tech Lab barracks instead of Hellions tells me already quite a story. So we're gonna go... I have 50... Whoa! That jump start helped a lot. Possibly too much. Get those Evo chambers. I think if you're going for Lings, aiming for Evo chambers as you're getting your lair is usually good. The only time you delay it is if you're under a lot of pressure. Like Hellions or something. So, yeah, there's a tank. We need a couple more OVs and then just Zerglings. Look at that APM, 500. And now the focus is getting some creep spread outside my third base. So I have 50 drones. We can go to 4 gas here. So I don't know where that army is. I'm gonna shift click off a couple Lings here. Making another round of drones. Or Zerglings. Zerglings. Very key difference right now. We're just getting creep spread along every lane here. And the top priority upgrade with Lair is not getting a Hydra Den yet. It's getting Baneling speed. Baneling speed, obviously good for closing the distance, but also gives your Banelings plus 5 HP. With which plus 5, once you get plus 1 Carapace, this means they no longer die to tank splash damage. So that's kind of a huge upgrade. Now, they still die in 1 Widowmine hit, because Widowmines are the devil. But being able to negate a tank shot is a big deal, especially in those early fights. Once I have the gas, though, Hydra Den. I've been getting some more drones. The next stopping point is 65 to 70, essentially, whichever I get closest to. Once I get 60 drones, we're looking for a 4th hatch. Or 1,000 minerals, either way.
Mineral clusters mined out.
Can you elaborate on what's seeing about the early Marauder? He has a Tech Lab barrack, which means he probably has a second barracks, which means he probably isn't doing a 1-1-1, or at least he's not doing like a quick Hellions or like a battlecruiser build. Just seeing that it's not a guarantee, but it slows it down at least. So that means Zerglings and Banelings just went up in value, Queens dipped slightly, and I need to be careful not to over-drone. Where's that Hydra gun? Upgrades. Another round of Zerglings here. Because we're at 67 workers. Gonna get Overlord speed. He's still sitting back.
Depleted that mineral cluster.
A little bit more creep. More OVs. More Inject. More. Hydra upgrades queued up. So you do want to get Hydras as soon as you can while still having an army, because they take a while to build, they're kind of expensive, so you'd already rather have invested in them if possible.
Not enough.
Looks like he's attacking. Does he just have units in the medevacs, or is he attacking across the map? He's attacking it. Well, I was optimistic. Now we make as many Banelings as possible. And now, whatever I can do, first things first, we see if there are any upgrades finishing. Not really. Second thing, we try to set up a flank, which we can still use the Select All Army hotkey here. Don't worry, we will. I'm going to show you some important tips for fighting with Banelings, which is that the Banelings need to take as much damage as possible before they die. Select all army, A-click, control-click Banelings, and then just right-click through the army. You see? I'm right-clicking the Banes. They tank damage. And, of course, they might get a little closer. So what I'm doing is I'm setting the army in a position where the Zerglings and the Hydras fight, and the Banelings, a little ironically, are the shield for the rest of your army. This is a super key part of many of the... And this is the reason why Serral is actually able to do damage with all those Banes. Is because otherwise the Banelings, if you A-click them, will trigger on the first unit, like Marauder, Tank, or Marines, whatever it is. And they might be at full HP. So the Banelings, when they die, they still explode, right? Like, so that is something, that is why I say Roach Hydra just isn't overall as good. It is because you don't have this kind of multiplier. It is, one, easier for things like medevacs to exploit it. And Banelings are quite good for the cost. Not good because your average Platinum player looks away and loses all their Marines, but good because they can act as a shield for your army. Why wouldn't you want Zerglings to tank? Why is the Baneling better? So, the Zergling can attack more than one time. The Baneling attacks once. I'm not saying you don't want the Banelings to hit Marines. You want to get as close to the center and eat as many bullets from those Marines before exploding in their face. That is the intent. That way you absorb more damage, and the units that can come clean up and continue attacking will be able to do so. One more time. So, here's the point. With the Banelings, so some of these Banelings, you see here, these Banelings would have already triggered. Hit a couple Marines, hit a Marauder, been done. Those Banelings right there, they're dead in this scenario. Whereas if I'm rolling through, not only do they explode in the center of the army while the rest of the army is attacking, they are also eating shots from the units that are about to die. So the Marauder shots, the Marine shots. This is as slow as you can get, but I will show you once again with no, like, camera anything. What I like to do is set up the army, and then now, it is a bit lazy, but the best system I found for doing it is hitting the Select All Army key. Yes. Hitting Select All Army, then control-clicking the Banelings, which selects only the Banelings from your army. So, that way, like, it's not, you don't need to hotkey them. At that point, you just want to control-click and then right-click wherever you're sending them. It's not a micro-intensive situation. You're just using them as a shield for your army. The counterplay for Terran is to have enough units in general, like, and spread out. But if you walk on creep and you just in general don't have enough units, if all my Banelings attack down the ramp into Marauders, I probably don't win this fight. It doesn't really matter what the upgrades are. In fact, he has +2 attack. But if I'm attacking 8-click down the ramp into Marauders, the Banelings get stuck behind the Zerglings because they're slightly slower. The Hydras can't really get attacks off. So, positioning, essentially with Zerg, you want to win the fight before it starts. Because the Terran will win the rest. That's how it works. That's how ZVT works. You want to punch them in the face so hard they can't get back up. Because otherwise, medevacs, stim, reinforcements, tanks, like, all these units continue doing damage, whereas you don't have anything else. One more time from my perspective, slightly slower. I just boxed a group and sent it that way. There was no hotkeys there, no nothing. Like, I just shift-click. Bit clunky, but this comes with practice, and I'm trying to do it about as simplistically as possible, to be honest. It takes, you will lose games with your units running through. You notice the Banelings are selected. I'm still just right-clicking the Banelings. They're eating tank hits. And honestly, he wasn't out of it yet, but he hadn't really been producing anything, so. But yeah, the Banelings are your explosive shield. Think of them as like a flame shield. Okay, I'm not trying to use other terms from other games. Banelings are a flame shield that explodes when it dies. So you want to get your flame shield as close to the enemy as possible, so when they die, they explode. Caustic shield. There you go. So, once again, if the Bane's A-click here... Actually, let's do this. Let me just show you what happens if the Bane's A-click. So, if I just A-click this army...
Black Lily is behind the screens for 1 month.
They just roll in. Now, obviously, it's not attacking, but they're stuck behind the Zerglings. The Zerglings will be getting attacked first. I think a better example would be before the fight starts.
Evolution's
Like,
complete.
if I just take this army and I A-click... Well, let me show you the behavior of the Banes if they just A-click. Like, say, small group, A-click. Here, okay, because there's no other player in the game, it's a little odd, because otherwise the Marines would be shooting. Is that the ideal use of 6 Banelings? I hope that's about as good of a explanation as we're gonna get. It is a very important thing. I guess it seems intuitive, but I guess it's not. We will spend a moment in the unit tester, and I'll just show you the difference. The Baneling is just a one-time attack. It's a one-time explosive. This is why, like, I see so many Zergs, lower level Zergs. This is why I don't recommend Banelings for many low-level Zergs, because, as you can see, it isn't exact. Like, a lot of people are like, I need to attack as fast as possible so it explode. No, not quite. That's, Zergling, Baneling speed. 15 Zergling, 15 Baneling. It's only 15 supply, but let's do... That's a bit much.
Now what?
Carrier has arrived.
And his name is John Cena! Get in the ring and put boots to asses! This
Are you kidding me right now? Are you
Combat shield, stim, concussive. There you go. Alright. So,
Armed and ready.
Don't leave me hanging.
let's see. A Terran walking forward.
Received.
Attack. That looks pretty good. These armies aren't nearly large enough to make it matter. This is why people are so skewed. There. 80 supply army. Against 60 supply of Zerg, just to demonstrate my point.
Give us the proof on it. Been waiting on you. By the numbers, boys.
So this is the simplest micro Terran can do, which is control click their Marines back, and well, there you go.
Don't leave me hanging.
Lay it on. What's up? Been waiting. You gonna get armed and ready.
Let's say, I don't know, a near perfect pre-split
This
here.
better be. You've been waiting on you.
I might be like, well, that didn't help. It drew a lot more fire. These are really not explaining my point. It's very hard to show in like a non-game scenario. Yeah. doesn't feel like a huge impact. Because each Baneling is only 35 HP, right? It is a big impact. You know what? Do as I say, all right? Just because it doesn't look like it, it is a big difference. You don't know what you're yeah. That fight was... Yeah, it definitely... It matters even more on creep because the Banelings go faster on creep. The Banelings, each unit, the creep buffs are not created equal. Just look at the Queen. But Banelings get one of the biggest bonuses on creep. They go from being slightly slower than Stim Marines to slightly faster, which is a big difference with the creep. That is a very key difference. That is assuming everybody's just move command, obviously, but... Oh yeah, my APM for that last game at the end was 107. So, I broke the old record, but I'm well below the new one. Honestly, I'm gonna stop religiously playing Roach Hydra. Well, we're getting closer to Diamond. I'm gonna give Zerg players... I do feel, at this point, I've been doing a slight disservice to Zergs. And it has been because of that extra restriction, just because of how Zerg is. Roach Hydra just ain't it. The unenthusiastic hand job composition might get the job done, but it is not the first choice. Zerg players. Honestly, right now, Roach Baneling Corruptor. ZVP is not easy in the late game. Make no mistake, I expect to start outright losing games against Skytoss. To which I really don't want to just start doing timing attacks, which I think are more reliable against your average Diamond player. But essentially right now it's Serral and Reynor, and then everyone else. I don't want to say that Skytoss is unbeatable. It is. There's very little room for error past a certain point. There's a lot of, like, the same goes for the Protoss. Like, the Protoss, there's a lot of vulnerability. But once you put it all together, it's like sealing up your power armor. So, like, if you don't have some terrible riders to make you take off your helmet or something, you're almost invulnerable at a certain point.
Gotta spawn more overlords.
Roach Hydra, I think 2 years ago when we were doing the low APM challenge, one, I did struggle with Zerg and Roach Hydra. And two, people have just gotten better. Like, it hasn't really been a patch. It's just everyone of every race has gotten better, especially with spellcasters and setting up their base defensively. So this means that the swarm-style compositions from Zerg just aren't quite as good. This has had the effect of making it harder for Zergs to just kind of walk over and win at the higher levels. At the highest level, I mean, everyone below Serral knows, but like, it's not like Protoss players were struggling before. It's just your average Diamond Protoss has had enough examples. And we're aiming towards Diamond today. So the summary is, Zergling speed early. We're gonna focus on continued Queen production. Tell me I have an Overlord spawn. More OVs. Honest, I need to focus. I'm sorry. No more meta commentary. Except when it becomes relevant to what I'm actually building right now. Which is Queens. And mines. Mostly Queens right now. Start the creep. Gonna get the creep to the main. Until I determine whether it is or is not Stargate. I'm splitting my Zerglings here. We're gonna poke in with a single Zergling. Oh, I could have just clicked on that. That was a robo. We're getting a lair. What does a robo mean? That's a very good question. I'm still getting spores. It could be an early attack. It could be very defensive. Honestly, it is hard to tell. We'll just get our safety war in. An Evo chamber. I'm still looking for a third. We need a roach one. Okay, so an old build, but it still checks out, is dropping sentries on the high ground and force fielding your main. So that you don't see that anymore because Ravagers exist, is the summary. Or at least you don't see it often, but occasionally someone will try it. So, like, if you don't have the roach one, that is one of the builds you can just lose to. Mostly because you had no idea and did not expect it. I haven't seen anything yet. We're at 50 drones, which means make some ovies. Gonna get roach speed here. I've already built a Baneling nest. It's on the way. We don't build a Hydra Den unless it's absolutely required. That's truly the meta now. Get another round of queens and a big round of Zerglings, as well as an overseer. I'm at 50 drones. That's the number. Why? Because he doesn't have a third. He has a robo. If it was Stargate and I saw Void Rays or something, well, it'd be different. I'd probably still build drones and continue on everything else. But he did build a robotics facility. In fact, we're going to get that Spire. Keeping our options open. Maybe even MOOTAS. But right now, I have no idea what it is. We're getting some creep just on the lanes outside of my base. I got 1,000 minerals. Let's get another hatch. Could be a Robo Bay as well. Getting Bane speed. Getting gas at the third. We have a lot of... Whoa, okay, roaches. Oh my, Gatewayman. Take me by the hand. This seems to be the plan.
All out of gas. Got forces under attack out there.
Wow. That's a... Okay, so Roach, Ravager, Ling, Bane. You got your... Essentially an army that can hopefully run him over. Yeah, getting a Spire would be fun. Yeah, this ain't happening. More Zerglings. He did have a Robo Bay.
Depleted that mineral.
There's a Disruptor, so Disruptors are scary. But he doesn't have a third, remember. I'm gonna take a fourth. He's gonna fire the shot. We're gonna pull back as soon as he does. With the roaches, that is. Split. He's in the main. Try to keep him busy here for a while. We're gonna need to pull the drones using camera locations. And there's still a lot of stuff in our main base, eh? We're just pulling the drones here. It's not fun, but the queens can take some hits.
Our base is under attack. Your forces are under attack.
I'm building a couple MOOTAS. It's actually real dicey here.
Need more gas for that. Got forces under attack out there. Not enough Vespine. Your forces are under attack.
Get some more gas. We're gonna get some hatcheries. He's killed the main. Let's see if this one Muta can be the biggest hero the Zerg have ever seen, and it is.
Man, there's command drones over here.
Get some transfuses while I still can.
Not enough Vespine. Need more gas for that.
Oh, I lost my spawning pool, which I didn't realize until now. So this is not good. He also has something on my fourth base.
All out of gas.
So the MOOTAS will have to save the day. And he's probably going to have another round. I need to be building roaches because I need something on the ground. Not realizing my spawning pool died was not great. My roach warren almost died. Oh no. Well. I'm building some more drones. I lost a lot. What is up here? A single adept. What a hero. Well, now we have MOOTAS. Rebuilding queens, some lings. It's time for hydras as well. Is this his third? We gotta micro those MOOTAS, but remember, scouts and drones. Why is it time for hydras? Because he has a lot of stalkers. We're up to 54 drones, which is not a lot, but I don't see us getting many more for now. I'm gonna get lurkers immediately. Is the plan.
Your forces are under attack.
We're gonna pretty much skip the hydras themselves. The intent is to just, well, I am gonna need the hydra upgrades. There's a Templar Archives. If I could kill it, that'd be super nice, but I doubt it.
Got forces under attack out there.
Get some creep. This is gonna have to be an unupgraded lurker den.
Your forces are under attack.
Run away! To the corner! Recall!
That mineral cluster's mined out.
Get Bane. Wait, I did get Bane speed. Okay. Let's get some Banelings then. Pretty much we're just gonna have to fight the army when it comes out.
Hive cluster just popped out a queen. Don't got the minerals.
I'm gonna try to get the MOOTAS. The MOOTAS can help me kill warp prisms. That's there. Even if I only have a couple left. I'm splitting off just my roaches to deal with this.
Your forces are under attack.
Okay, I'll also get some Banelings.
Brand new evolution over here. Depleted that mineral cluster.
So, we're kind of scrambling. I'm up to 75 drones now, though. So, we've still got okay creep spread, which I'm using mostly just for the vision, best I can. We're gonna have the MOOTAS to patrol for the prism. They don't fight. They ain't fighting.
That command's no good, boss. All out of gas.
If I can shoot down any observers and then use the lurkers, it's not an elegant strat, but an effective one.
Need more gas for that.
Getting some Zerglings. Anything, really. Pretty desperate.
Mineral cluster depleted.
Get the MOOTAS onto the prism. See if he panics and blinks.
Depleted that mineral cluster.
Get more lurkers. We're stuck on defense now for quite a while, by the way. So, more spines. Start the hive. Gonna send these Zerglings out.
That command's no good, boss.
I'm gonna have Banelings, because otherwise it's likely he'll just warp in Zerglings before I can do anything. Does he have any observers? He does not. So.
Got forces under attack out there. Need more overlords. Don't really know how or why.
I'm gonna make sure these come out in the right spot.
Forces under attack out there. Gotta spawn
Looks
more
like he's
overlords.
just ignoring the fact that lurkers are a unit that exists. Which is very kind of him. Yeah, a lot of players will have a mental breakdown. Like the lurkers, out of sight, out of mind. Oh, it looks like he does have an observer here. No, he probably had like, I don't know, like a Hearthstone build or something. And this is not why I don't put out build order guides. But I don't think they're particularly useful.
Popped out a queen.
I mean, if you're looking to get another few hundred MMR, a good build order guide will get you there. But you might not realize why, is the summary. And a lot of players will just copy paste and then
Evolution's complete.
a couple lurkers to help with the defense. It does feel like this is my build,
Forces are under attack.
and then we had to go past that, and that's where things have gotten quite dicey. Okay, he used his recall. So let's see how close we can get before actually fighting. Pretty close. There's an observer.
Brand new evolution over here.
We still have the Spire as well, if needed.
Evolution's complete.
We can start stutter stepping the lurkers up. This is a little too fancy. Also, we could contaminate. Oh, we got the observer out. Very fancy. Let's get a few more lurkers here.
Got forces under attack out there.
Hydras. You gotta be careful with the pathing.
Cluster's mined out.
He has a second robotics facility here. I don't see his observer. There it is.
Mineral cluster depleted. Depleted that mineral cluster.
Not that I should be relying entirely on that. I got a little cute at the end. I definitely could have just made a couple Vipers and dunked down on the army, but it did get very dicey. I did not... I underestimated Gatewayman. The key is, as always, don't panic. Just assume... Now, I guess it's easier for me, obviously, but assume you're going to find a way out of this. I did get a little complacent. He took out my spawning pool, and I was trying to build Zerglings. So that was a big mistake on my part. I did not realize I could not build Zerglings or Queens or anything, really. Wow, we went way over. Equaling the Protoss. And that was a result of poor planning. The worse you react, the more you have to recover. And Hearthstone just did a guide on Gatewayman style, so people are quite happy with Gatewayman. You're gonna be like, Winter, was it a guess? No. I subscribe to Hearthstone. Mostly so I know what to make fun of when I see people using it. Well, actually, let's see. I want to know. Is this Hearthstone? Is this a Platinum League interpretation of Hearthstone's build? Because obviously, I doubt they'd be playing in Platinum.
Ever since the most recent patch, PvZ has changed in a very big way, and I'm here to explain
for
to you
the Platinum
all
players?
the newest trend in Protoss vs Zerg, initially introduced to us by Hero. It is going to be the low gas, fast forward base, mass gateway.
So no, it's not that.
You're
it's
going
not
to have
that.
a bunch of zealots. You start building.
So if that
gases
was
from
the
your
attempt,
third, your fourth,
it
and
wasn't
your
that.
natural,
It was
and
just a
kind
bunch of
transition
gateways. So this is a much
I'm
more
not really
advanced
committed
build.
to this cause. My forward base goes down.
Yeah, this
juggling with these
is not even close. I mean, the build my opponent did was a bunch of gateways. I think a lot of Protoss, though, Hearthstone might be overestimating the average Protoss. The average Protoss will see the thumbnail say Gatewayman, be like, Hearthstone says gateways are good, and then build 10 of them on 2 base. That is what I took away from it, Hearthstone. So that is the level of commitment to learning the build that I, a Protoss aficionado, will do. You might, well, by the time this is on YouTube, the 6.5 hour Angry Coach very likely will be as well. And I'm liking, I'm creating a whole, so the beauty of streaming and the beauty of content creation is that instead of having teams of hundreds of people and thousands of hours put in and a huge amount of planning and equipment, you just have one person trying to come up with hours of content every single day and kind of succeeding. So, what I'm trying to say is we have Angry Coach, which informs part of the low APM challenge, and at the same time gives me plausible deniability, because I'm both the Angry Coach and the low APM challenge, I guess, challenger. So, I both have the ability to say, look at this, and then say, you didn't look at it, while using the info we gain from Angry Coach to try to help the small percentile of people who actually do want to learn. Which, I mean, based on continued Angry Coach, we learn is how small, but... And then, of course, you got all the pro games and everything in between. But I said that's enough meta commentary. You got 300 minerals. You would have already gotten a strike. No. Stop talking to chat and start... you don't even know what race he is. Terran. Okay. Against Terran, I think I'm trying to make it less and less complicated. I do feel like I've done a disservice to Zergs. And Zerg is hard. Zerg is the mechanically most difficult race. Yes, you can argue all you'd like, but between how important it is to stay on top of your production and your mechanics, and how unforgiving it can be if you make the wrong call. Like, Terran, you can't go wrong with Marines. You can go less right, like, they're definitely better units in some scenarios, but almost never are Marines the wrong call. But there are many scenarios for Zerg where going Zerglings is the wrong call, or making more queens or roaches or corruptors. Those can very much be the wrong call. On top of the fact that if you don't have enough production, then you can't build enough of any of the above. So Mr. OP Tactics the Terran did not have an expand, but we don't know why that is yet. He has 2 factories, so we're going to wall off. He built the 2nd factory near the wall. What the fuck are you guys doing? This doesn't mean he can't get into the main. There's likely something like a drop. Gonna get some more gas here.
Your forces are under attack. Don't go.
Oh, it's a cyclone. So, queens. Pull the OVs back. I guess that makes sense. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. Gonna get a spine crawler.
Can't do that without creep. We need more minerals.
Some speedlings. The speedlings are mostly to absorb the lock-on. And now we know he's expanding right now.
Got a new queen leading the pack.
And you'd think from all the times playing Protoss, I'd be able to figure this out.
Can't. Need more minerals for that.
It is a queen tight, aka potentially also a roach tight wall. And I need to let him kill my wall.
Got the minerals.
This isn't gonna work as is. He can get potentially the hell. Well, if he goes through the Evo chambers, that's actually best case for me. Because I don't need that. Well, that's what I wanted to do. Like, that's what I was saying. Thank you. But this was me screwing up. Whittle mine. I'm gonna get a 2nd Ravager. So 2 Ravagers can kill a Whittle mine without detection. Just gotta know where it is. That's the hardest part usually anyways. This, I'm going to focus more on creep spread than your average game, because creep spread is a huge deal against Cyclone Hellion. The Hell Clones, you need to be able to close the distance. Otherwise, they're just going to dance all day.
Hive cluster just popped out a queen.
I'm going to get a lair here. I'm hiding my OVs because...
Do that without creep.
Ooh, maybe he's taking a 3rd. Either way. We're gonna get a spore at the very front, actually. I've got 43 drones, which is on the low side. For 2 base, but... Was he bringing the boys? It does look like it.
Need more gas for that. Mineral cluster depleted. Not enough Vespine.
Roach speed is the priority here. Once again, to be able to close the distance. Let's see if there are any more.
That mineral cluster's mined out.
Since we already have the creep in the focus here, I'm gonna expand. I could go for drilling claws at the same time, but tunneling claws. We're not doing that.
Boss. Got a new queen leading the pack.
How many drones? And we'll likely scan. We still have the 2 Ravagers. Get an Overseer.
Mineral cluster depleted. Hive cluster, just pretty sure that's gonna need some creep.
This is, definitely an interesting call.
Evolution's complete.
Gonna shift queue some Zerglings in. So the key to dealing with cyclones is to make them look any other direction. So that way they're not just constantly microing.
Your forces are under attack. Got forces under attack out there.
I'm just gonna right click into the main. Yeah, I suspected he might do a big tech switch, so I attacked. We can get the Spire here. He's switching into Banshees with essentially nothing else. So we're gonna kill the starports, is the play. He may have been going battle cruiser now. Some spores.
Your forces are under attack.
We're getting a Spire. And of course we have the Queens at home, in case it gets anywhere close to dicey.
Got forces under attack out there. Your forces are under attack. Got forces under attack out there. Your forces are under attack. All out of gas.
MOOTAS.
Got forces under attack out there.
I mean, he might have a command center somewhere else. I'll send the MOOTAS to the top right. Has he gone over queen number? I would say aim for at least 5 non-inject queens. At least 1 on each base injecting. And no more than 20. How far do I want to drive down my APM is really now the question.
That mineral cluster's mined out.
I think we managed it on that one. Still over 100, but it was a dicey opener. I haven't seen that one in a bit. The Cyclones, you have to respect them, but not too much, all right? Don't give them the map, but strongly yet firmly push them off the high ground. That's usually your best bet. What prompted you to walk into his base? The fact I could. Also, I was finishing road speed and +1, so there's no reason not to attack, especially now that I can easily defend what he has on the ground. Also, when he's flying his factories around, there are two options. One, he's an idiot. Okay, there's two options, and they're not mutually exclusive. One, he's an idiot. Two, he's doing some dramatic tech switch misguidedly. So, it was both. It wasn't so much what he did. I would very much have attacked anyways. It's just the factories were an extra trigger on it. Does the benefit from mines from armory go away if the armory gets blown up? Yes. If you don't have an armory, then you no longer get the mine cloak. Not so fun fact, or fun fact. Though I wouldn't say sniping the armory is a reliable strategy to counter them.
We need more minerals.
Is that true of Evo Chamber? What? Losing the benefits? And what benefits does the Evo Chamber provide? Unless we're talking about upgrades. Upgrades do not go away if you lose. You don't need... You haven't needed an evolution chamber for spores for half a decade. Upgrades do not go away if you kill the upgrade building. It's just the armory applies an effect to all active Widow Mines. It's an active effect as opposed to an upgrade, essentially.
Can't. Need more minerals for that.
The Widowmine Cloak has gone through a lot of iterations. So he's Zerg, based on the fact he has overlords. Of course, he was random, so he didn't tell his race. Really? Bro. So, we don't really get that much time to explain, but it all depends on whether or not he has an expansion. Because if he has an expansion,
Our base is under
I
attack.
don't want to pull drones, because he's doing an all-ouchies. Alright. We make a spine, we get a queen, we build Lings.
More overlords.
If he had an expansion, he's doing a 12 pull. It's essentially a macro build, even though it is obviously very cheesy. But if he doesn't have an expo... Oh, he might have the gold. That would be smart. Oh, no. I can't move this OV that much. Because we're on Blackburn, so it may very well be the gold. In which case, this was a mistake. Well, we'll see if he has Zergling speed momentarily. If he has Zergling speed, then he doesn't. And if he doesn't have Zergling speed, I'll be able to see his gold if he has it. Yep. Okay. So, it's a weird spot. I definitely didn't need to give up the hatch, but it didn't really cost me much. What I mean is... It costs the hatch, but that's about the economic benefit he gets. The gold base does make it more complicated. I'm not sure how this is going to matter now. I don't want to let him kill the gold, obviously.
Can't do that
This is a
without
bit of an
gold.
odd freestyle situation. The key is, don't panic,
Cluster just popped.
alright? At the end of the day. Especially if you just kill all his Zerglings. And now he has to either build more Zerglings or make a bunch of defenses at his gold.
All out of energy.
I'm making more drones behind this because I'm not going to rely on trying to run around. Yeah,
Evolution over here.
there you go. He just used this as a springboard, essentially.
Not enough energy. Got a new queen leading the pack.
We're going to try to get to MOOTAS. He's not sending his roaches across, at least not yet. He's still scared of my Zergling counter. I do have a roach den. It is a whole lot of incomplete information for both sides. Getting creeped to the edge of my base to scout for Nidus.
All out of energy.
Because I suspect pretty strongly that's where we could be going.
Your forces
He
are
just
under
has a whole
attack.
bunch of roaches. Another base. The Spire is not particularly quick.
All out of energy. We need more minerals.
He's getting a Spire. So his drone count is not high. Move the queens.
Not enough
If he
Vespene.
can't figure out what this is, well then. He shouldn't be playing Zerg at all. Maybe I overdid it on the spines a bit, but...
Need more gas for that. That command's no good, boss. That mineral cluster's mined out. Hive cluster just
The
popped
gamble
out of
is
the
that he just simply won't have as many MOOTAS,
way. Need more overlords.
even though he has more bases, because he doesn't have the drone count.
Not enough overlords.
But we'll see.
That command's no good, boss. Gotta spawn more overlords. That mineral cluster.
Having the initiative with MOOTAS can be a huge deal. And that's what I'm trying to use. I got him a little quicker, so now he has to respect that. But if I
Not
get
enough
caught,
Vespene.
that's obviously bad.
That mineral cluster's mined out. Don't got the minerals. Can't. Need more minerals for that.
Using select all army a decent amount to
Got a new queen leading the pack. Your forces
select
are under
only the
attack.
MOOTAS.
We need more minerals. Got forces under attack out there. Don't got the minerals. Our base is under attack. Can't. Need more minerals for that. Mutation complete. Man, I wish I hadn't seen that.
Does he have +1 carapace? He has +1 attack, which is superior. No, the +1 carapace is superior. I'm thinking in Muta fights, it is superior. Obviously, against attacking roaches, the carapace upgrade does not matter as much.
Don't got the minerals. Our base is under attack.
He keeps just attacking, which is so dumb. It's throwing me off. Make sure my MOOTAS fight.
Need more gas for that.
Yeah, I don't expect him to attack because he should know I have more.
That
But then
command's
he
no good,
does.
boss.
The most important thing is to not lose the MOOTAS. I should have more, unless he has 1-1. He doesn't.
Zerg just mutated again.
So, yeah, the fact he was random means my second OV wasn't in position to scout that. If he was Zerg, I would have had a second OV across the map, and it would have scouted the gold base, because you put it towards the third, which is on the same line as the gold. So, that was an example of the random advantage. Because I didn't send my second OV out, because against Terran and Protoss, you do not send the second OV out because it's just another liability mostly, and that way you can scout for cheese. We failed by a few APMs, even on the 120. So I got so much gas by having this drone count. I'm in the blue.
Good. Now I have your attention.
Like, the gold base
When the
doesn't give
gaming
you
is
more
now
gas. It just gives you that boost of minerals, but you use that all for roaches. So. Obviously, that's not the ideal. Carapace. Yeah, but a carapace, so what happens is the attack upgrade does not negate, because the MOOTAS, they do their bounce attack, right? The glaives, they bounce through. So the carapace reduces each one more than the attack upgrade gives bonus. So Especially in the larger Muta fights, the Carapace upgrade wins out. This is knowledge from Heart of the Swarm, when most ZVZs, or at least many of them, were Muta-Ling versus Muta-Ling. And then the strat would be to, like, hold position your Zerglings underneath the Mutas, so that way some of the bounces would hit the Lings, and the Lings' only purpose is to sit there and eat the hits. But that was a little more advanced. Like, I wouldn't recommend trying that. Now we have a Zerg, not a random Zerg. So, first OV going towards the natural, second OV going towards the third. This way, almost every map, if you spend more than 0 seconds looking at it, almost every map only has 2 lanes coming out from the natural. And in ZVZ, I mean, you can consult the guide, but in ZVZ, there's nothing that can kill OVs in the early game but queens. So this means you should be able to, except for the very early game and past the mid-game, be able to see everything coming out of their base. Unless they push their queens way off a creep, which is already suspicious. Your OV can hang out, like, over here, and then the second OV can be, like, over here. And you can still see literally everywhere Zerglings could go. Of course, this is reliant on you looking at the minimap. So that's why we try to do those patroller lords. Which is patrolling an overlord, or in Terran and Protoss' case, a worker. On the corner bases, not so much for scouting, but for getting in the habit of looking at the minimap, because that definitely is a blind spot, puns intended, for many Metal League players. Is you might have the build, you might have your OVs in the right spot, but if you don't see the Zerglings coming out of their base, well, then I got nothing for you. Like, that's at some point you do need to just see the Zerglings. All right.
Got a new queen leading the pack.
I am gonna take a third. We're gonna, like, today it's a new day. All right. We're trying to play some quote-unquote real builds. AKA, I'm not hamstringing myself by going for, like, 2 base roach. But instead, we're focusing on just a more standard. So that means I pulled off of gas, but I am getting a Baneling nest. And then put 2 more back in gas here. You don't have to pull off of gas, that's not super necessary. The Baneling nest is going to be super necessary, though, because that is what I like to call a fuck ton of Zerglings. We're going to get a bunch of... I'm surprised he didn't just go, because I obviously saw the Zerglings. Usually, at that point, the element of surprise... Well, there you go.
Brand new evolution over here.
So we're getting a spawn. The reason I built the Bane nest like this is so the queen can jam herself in there. And the reason I built the spawning pool like this is similar. So.
Not enough best speed. Not enough overlords.
Make sure. No, we're gonna try to get as many Banes as we can. All it takes is 1. But that is why this is a pretty decent demonstration. I'm actually gonna manually detonate here. He gets the queen, but this is a demonstration of why I build those buildings like that. Just to get those little concaves. Yeah, the Zerglings will take the quickest path. And if there isn't a building walling it off? A unit is not a building. Even though queens are so hefty, they might as well be. Units do not count as buildings, and therefore the Zerglings will try to go through the units, if possible. So, instead of just trying to counterattack and doing a bunch of Ling Bane micro, I think the highest percentage play here, I don't even think he checked for the third, but is make some more drones, start a lair.
Need more overlords. Don't really
I
know how.
definitely, like, because as we've learned before, you know what Lings are? You know what they are? Not drones. So, if he made that many Lings, and I made less Lings overall, and I think that's pretty reliable analysis, I have more drones. Assuming I spend most of my money. So. I'm gonna send some Lings, just try to get into his main. But the most, like, mass Zergling player like this, he's antsy. Based on the attention deficit Zergs on Angry Coach, he's ready. He's ready to go again. It took a lot, but he eventually figured out he couldn't. He does not have a lair. So that means I can make a spire. A couple more spawns. I don't really care about my third. Do I have 44 drones? Alright, we'll do another short round, but... So here's what we do now. He doesn't have a lair. My lair is done. He has 2 bases. I can poke over here, maybe I missed it, but... So all I need, I can make roaches, and I should still have the gas to make some MOOTAS. His options consist of Lings, roaches, and Banelings. I didn't see a Bane nest, but like that is on the table. My options are, well, so AKA nothing that deals with Spire. I want to get at least 5 MOOTAS. 5 MOOTAS is enough to one-shot any worker. So that's the key number there.
Mineral cluster depleted.
But the real key number will be however many I can build to not die. Get some Banelings. Ideally, I want to keep the spines alive as they have more damage than an individual roach. I like making overlords on bases that are gonna die. I mean, you need the overlords. He's not gonna kill them. Brown legs! I'm sorry. Role playing. So now he kind of has to attack.
All out of gas. Not enough vent speed.
We're gonna right-click those Banelings through. Some transfuse. Back off. We have spines. Control click the queens. That was a lot of APM building Zerglings he had. But there you go. And as you can see, based on my mathematical analysis of Lings not being drones, you can see here pictured Lings not being drones. Few more games. None of those mutas gotta kill workers? Not like there were that many. They had to do unsuspecting roaches. Alright. MOOTAS, they're perfectly good as a defensive tool. Here's the thing. So, there are a lot of scenarios where, say, those Zerglings did a bit more damage, and they very well could have. I'm very good at the Ling Bane micro. That's the only micro, because back in Wings of Liberty, ZVZ was my worst matchup, because I always went roaches. And back in Wings of Liberty, you didn't have the economy, so going roaches means you were kind of hamstringing yourself real hard. It's still not ideal a lot of the time in Legacy of the Void, but with 6 workers start, it definitely slowed you down. But for like 500 ZVZs or so, I just did a 2-base Ling Bane all in. Yes,
Got the minerals.
disgusting. But even, no matter if they saw it immediately,
Need more minerals.
no matter if they had like 3 spine crawlers, doesn't matter. I lose, whatever. But after a few hundred games, I actually kind of learned the Ling Bane micro, like the tricks and tips and all that. And now ZVZ, mostly off the back of Ling Bane micro, is a matchup that is usually over 75% win rate. And I know the entire point of the low APM challenge is not to do a bunch of micro, or spend hundreds of games learning that micro, so that is why we're mostly avoiding it. But all of that humble bragging is bringing it back to, if I had taken more damage from the Ling Bane, then I probably would not have gone MOOTAS. MOOTAS are a winning the game or circumventing tool. Like, the reason I went MOOTAS is because I knew I could defend with what I already had. But if I had lost like 10 drones or something, that would have made it a little closer. I probably would have just gone for roaches with speed, and I would have had speed quicker because I had a lair quicker. I would still go for the lair. There's plenty of lair tech that isn't MOOTAS, mostly roach speed in ZVZ. That gives you an advantage in map control without being such a reach for the Mutalisks. Because MOOTAS are expensive and they take a while. So if it was, like, if he was able to attack a minute quicker, it would have been dangerous, especially if I had less economy. So just FYI, I would not have always gone MOOTAS. It was a, I'm so far ahead, this is how I get more ahead. Not a
Base is under attack.
straight up rule to go MOOTAS in that scenario.
We need more minerals.
And that's the hard part about Zerg. Like, as Terran, you deal with a roach all in,
Minerals.
you eventually get a Banshee, and then you go Marines and tanks. You take a lot of damage, you go Marines and tanks. You don't take any damage, Marines and tanks. Like, there's not too much in the playbook there. Because it works. Believe it or not, about even. Marines and tanks.
Don't got the minerals. Evolution's complete. Can't. Need more minerals for that. We need more minerals.
Alright.
Looks like the enemy's aiming for a creep tumor.
I was going for the tumors. I right click on the Reaper. Get a little creep in the main. Sport 20, or close enough.
Command hive cluster. Our base is under attack. Don't got the minerals.
I'm getting 10 Lings just to prevent further Hellion run-bys here, ideally. He's got a third base on the way. We'll start a lair. We'll get a safety warren.
Forces are under attack. Pretty sure that's gonna be creep.
I don't know exactly what he's doing over there. But get these gases. I should have already gone back into gas in the main. Get the Bane nest. A couple Evo I'm not really trying to wall off, but I'm not making it so easy. And so far, I've only seen 2 Hellions. He is building that 3rd CC, which is why I am
Got forces under attack
just
out
adding...
there.
What is this? A Viking. So, mech is still on the table as well. In which case, I definitely want to lean more into
Gotta
roaches.
spawn more
But
overlords.
if it's not mech, Hydra Ling Bane is the plan. We're gonna get the Carapace upgrade first, which is not committing to anything. More gas, a few more ovies. We're gonna rally them there from
Not
eggs.
enough energy.
I have 60-something drones, so I need to make a decision pretty quick on what I'm doing.
Your
Baneling
forces
speed.
are under attack.
Okay, as a tank. Alright, we're gonna get roach speed.
Need more gas for that.
So still, like... Either way, roach baneling is fine, and I can go into hydras instead of roaches. I'm gonna get the melee attack upgrades, and at 65 drones, I need more lings.
Got forces under attack out there.
This overseer. Also, we're gonna get overlord speed. Gonna get another hatch. More on the corner. A bunch of roaches.
Your forces are under attack.
I still don't know anything. I'm suspecting mech. I still don't know anything. Either way.
That mineral cluster.
Okay. I don't think it is mech.
Got forces under attack.
Either
out
way,
there.
though, at this stage, it's gonna be Roach Bane max out, and then maybe Hydras.
Try placing
is
that
the
on
plan.
top of a geyser.
Take all of the base. We're gonna need a lot of larvae for this. I'm going to 75 drones.
Mineral cluster evolution.
Just one bit of creep. Okay, 2 there. Gonna get a Hydra Den and an infestation pit. Carapace upgrade. Another round of drones. 3 in gas. Pick my lings back here. In fact, I should build at least a handful of banelings.
Mutation complete. Your forces are under attack.
We're gonna get the hive. Adding on way more lings here. I'll ruin that APM counter. And a lurker den. And we're gonna get the Hydra ups, but... Alright, 2 overseers. How many drones? We'll go to 80 because I'm probably gonna put a lot in the static defense. Do I not have a camera location for my 4th? There we are. Gonna build some lurker eggs, aka hydras. He's got a lot of turrets, but it is marines and tanks, though those are some house tanks there, of course. I'm a real marine. Nope, he didn't believe me. That's rude. Few lurkers. Adrenal glands, now that hive is done.
That mineral cluster's mined out. Depleted that mineral cluster.
Did I get Bane speed? Yes. Get the lurker upgrade. Sometimes you don't notice if you don't fight for this long.
These Zerg just mutated again. That command's no good, boss. Got
Looks like he's going through there. I see no reason. I'm gonna get yet enough tanks. I'm getting 2 Vipers. Already hacking them. Well. I see no reason to burrow the lurkers yet.
Your forces are under attack.
Once the tanks start firing, maybe. This time I did not micro the Banelings, to some regret. Not that it would matter much.
Evolution's complete. Mutation complete. Man, I wish I hadn't seen that. Brand new evolution over here.
We're gonna get +3 attack for melee, and then we're gonna get however many Zerglings I had larva. Because I am getting those
We got a
upgrades.
creep tumor under attack. Got forces under attack out there.
Bring the Vipers up here. Where are you? I'm gonna use Parasitic Bomb.
Brand new evolution over here.
Hydras. Banelings. Make sure we have a Spire. More Hydra. Whoop. Consume a little more.
That mineral cluster's mined out. Your forces are under attack. Need more gas.
More
for that.
Hydra. Ooh, Liberator.
Got forces under attack.
I'm gonna abduct the Liberators, which takes them out of their siege mode.
Depleted that. These
And
Zergs
hopefully have enough Hydras to do the rest. But yeah, this is why we're getting a Spire now. Because Liberators are eventually the counter. Get the Carapace upgrade.
Your forces are under attack. We got a that mineral
Come
cluster's
say hi.
mined out.
I mean, more Vipers are always good as well.
Man, I wish I
Fill
could
in
do
with
that. We're at
Zerglings.
maximum supply.
How are the upgrades? Get some more Spire stuff.
Our base is under attack.
We got Blue Flame Hellions, which is pretty cool.
Got forces under attack out there.
Some more Overseers.
Your forces are under attack.
Some more consuming time.
Mineral cluster depleted.
I'm just putting lurkers on these bases because I can't be bothered anymore. How much larva do we have? 31? It's not really that high, actually.
Got forces under attack out there.
Wait for the Vipers. Lightning Cloud, Parasitic Bomb.
Depleted that mineral cluster.
We're gonna unburrow the lurkers. Just keep abducting.
All out of
I don't have any more energy. The objective now, we're gonna get some battery packs. But I would have gone into taking out those outlying bases, which I suspected he might have some of these, but he didn't. But the next objective would be push back the army so I can just snap up the outlying bases. Not to win the game outright in killing a bunch of siege tanks. But eventually, like, he's pretty close. We're at 15 minutes. He's going to be mining out of everything but maybe a fourth. So I assume we failed. I mean, depends on your definition of failure. $125. 5 over. I'm really trying to do it. It's just how Zerg be, right? If you're playing, the thing is, doing an efficient build means you end up using more APM. It's because you have, like, more larva. I think the reason some Zerg players actually don't have so high APM, even though they do have high, is larva is the most APM intensive. Both injecting and using it is a whole bunch of it. I wouldn't be surprised if over half of that is just hatchery related. Like inject and building unit. That is it. And doing whatever with the eggs. But that's how Zerg be. It seems very difficult. It is difficult to get into, but once you get used to it, it can be very satisfying.
Now I have your attention.
Even more so
One
than
of the
like
enemies
Terran
now,
Pro
sir.
Tour. Yes. Alright, I'm appealing to the Zergs out there. That's originally why I started out as Terran because my friends told me it was OP, and it was, but not for Silver Leaguers. It was, yeah, not for Silver Leaguers. But I always thought Zerg looked the coolest, so I eventually got to Diamond in 2010 with Terran, but I switched to Zerg and got demoted to Platinum. Yes. You could get demoted. But eventually, yeah, I found more motivation to play because I did really like it, even though my computer couldn't really handle it. Because there's way too many units for like a Pentium 4, but let alone streaming. But it tried. So I kind of feared the extra late game because 200 supply of Zerglings was lucky to get 15 FPS. But no regrets. No regrets. Where was I? Anyway, Zerg is better. You're cool because you play Zerg. That's the summary. That's what I was trying to say. I think that point came across. But we got to Platinum 1. I think this is a good cutoff time. We're trying to keep the episodes around 2.5 hours. Because honestly, that's about how long I can focus and let alone watch anything. Not that I think people watch it in one sitting necessarily, but I do think after some point it becomes harder, especially if you're trying to commentate and play. And that's a good excuse. And also, of course, we got to drag it out for as many videos as possible. Thank you for liking and subscribing. But what did we learn today? We loosened up the restrictions on the APM, thus making it a slightly higher low APM challenge. But with it, unlocking the unit compositions that you will need in Diamond. Those more APM intensive just through the fact you can build more of the units. Which essentially means Zerglings and Banelings. But Zerglings and Banelings are never the end, they're the means to it. They're the units you have in front of the units that do everything else. And that is a point lost on a lot of players. So I hope I made an appropriate focus on that. Another thing is, what are we scouting for and why? Like, when to make MOOTAS. There were some MOOTAS made today. But why are we making them? And it's not just because I don't know MOOTAS, but does he have anti-air? Is he going MOOTAS later? Is it a robo-toss or a Terran going mech or something? Those are all important questions. And we have more questions coming up momentarily. But I want to give a few benchmarks. One, the ladder works again. So if you're not in the league you think you should be, you can leave league and you should be replaced in a disappointing place. So in case you didn't catch the beginning. But for now, at least, everything is working. Also, I want to take a little time talking about the SC2 Replay Stats Training Center. J-Mac, bring it up. The Training Center, which... There we are. All right. The SC2 Replay Stats Training Center. So once we get to the Diamond League, we'll start giving out some elite codes for SC2 Replay Stats, which allows you to access the training center all the time. But otherwise, you can use it for free just by using the site, which means you know what replays are and are actually looking to improve. But the training center essentially is... All right, let's see. For Zerg, my league goal is Masters. Whose isn't? But compared to a Masters player, it will just give you some basic points. And honestly, if you're Gold or Platinum, it'll put you at one league higher. And it just compares you with literally sometimes hundreds of thousands of players of the next league up and says, you're not doing this. And now it's not going to be perfect for every game, but it gives you something to work on better than I could. And honestly, anyone below Diamond doesn't really need specific, like, you need to build 4 drones at this time. You need spend your money and stop building too many overlords. Like, you don't need to be more than 20 or 25 supply ahead. In fact, it summarizes way better than I could. For example, compared to Master League, let's go to the mid game. Usually in the mid game, especially. My lost resource, the unspent minerals, a little higher there. Supply blocked, twice as much time as your average Master League Zerg. Took a little longer to get enough drones on gas. Now this was a pretty decent game from me, but and this shows you statistically, even though I'm at 125 APM, still not too far off your average Master League. The unspent becomes a little more, little less relevant depending on the game in the later game, but it's definitely the early and mid game. Unspent resources is something to look at. So I would say your big 3 are workers produced, supply block time, and unspent resources. Those are the top 3 for everyone Diamond and below. If you can compete with the next league up on all those 3, eventually, I can guarantee you will move up. Because all of them work together. The workers give you more income. And if you're not supply blocked, you can spend that income on units. If you build the workers, you get more income. But if you're supply blocked, you can't spend your money. Whereas if you don't spend your money, you might be more supply blocked. So if you do all those 3 things, they all work together and are the main points of moving up mechanically. Of course, you're still going to lose because you have a mental breakdown every time a unit that requires detection or has splash damages involved. But not as much as if you had half as many units. So, Replay Stats Training Center. And also, if you do consider paying for Elite, SC2 Replay Stats is the unofficial sponsor of the Low APM Challenge. And by that I mean it's where I get most of the information from. It's $5 a month that goes to running the site. So if you like it, there you go. Right now, it is self-sufficient based on people paying for the Elite version. So that's cool. Oh, yeah. Now, the most important part. Questions. How to deal with Cannon Rush as Zerg. 1, put your overlord in the right spot at the natural. 2, it takes 4 workers to kill a cannon if it just started by the time it finishes. 5 is more reliable. I recommend putting 2 drones on a probe or 2, and then 4 or 5 workers on each cannon. If they wall off their cannons, you kind of got to just make a judgment call. Like, if the cannon's already up behind your natural because you didn't put your overlord in the right spot, well, you're probably going to lose the base. If there's cannons kind of waltzing in from 2 screens away because their plan was to eventually crawl cannons forward and you already have your hatch done with creep, well then no, they can't cannon rush you anymore, so you don't need to 8-click every single unit because there's cannons in the general metro area of your base. I think especially, like, if you were getting cannon rushed by a competent player, your league border would definitely be higher. So a lot of cannon rushes in the Metal Leagues come down to the Zerg or whoever panicking, as opposed to anything particularly dangerous. So, but, and now the most important part. YouTube questions. Alright. So these are from about a month ago. Because of the rank bug, I did kind of put a pause on the low APM challenge, hoping things would get fixed, but we did try, and I was placed into the Bronze League. So, proving I am indeed a Bronze League hero. Thank you, Lucian. D's Noodles says, I normally play Dota and use the drag camera to move the camera, but in StarCraft it's a little different, where the mouse reappears in the same place from when you press the drag camera key. Is there a way to change it to where the mouse moves and you drag your camera? I don't really understand what you mean by that, but I think I do. The short answer is no, not that I know of. It essentially grabs your screen where your mouse is and moves it at the rate of your drag scroll. I don't know why that would be. I don't know how your mouse would move while drag scrolling. You might be talking about edge panning, which is mouse scrolling from the edge of the screen. You can raise the sensitivity, which is usually 20% by default, but I do recommend having them all consistent here. You can invert it. There are some options, but overall, I'm not entirely sure there's the functionality you're talking about, but there are... I don't know the answer to your question, but I think the answer is no. But I do recommend maybe turning your mouse sensitivity up in some fashion or another. And that can help counteract any issues once you get used to it. Jonathan, couple questions. Is it better once you have the APM to have your first queen at the natural place of tumor before injecting? Completely unrelated. You know, I answer that first then. I think that is more situational and a higher level. Like I mentioned, I was actually thinking of this question. Is at this level, it's more important to make sure you have the larva and get in the habit of injecting than to get your creep spread out faster. Because in fact, creep spread is the #1 thing that I notice Platinum and Diamond Zergs do that hurts them. You might be like, how does creep spread hurt you? Because they focus so much on creep spread, they're not doing anything else. Now, if you think you're somehow immune to the attention deficit Zerg, well, then be my guest. At least in Zerg versus Terran, there's a good argument for making the creep tumor first. But overall, I think it's much more reliable to inject. Completely unrelated, how do you go about adding reinforcements to your main army while attacking without using Select All Army? Do you just have to remember to press Shift 1 when you build them? If I've clicked off the eggs, have I done goofed already? Short answer is yes. Long answer is So here's what you do. You build a round of units. If they go into eggs, that'll be in your selection box. Let's see. I can do a very short version against the AI here. It is a good point, but... And then you can control-click the eggs in your selection box. Down... And Shift 1 to your main army. if you've already clicked off or you've built more units that you didn't want to add in, you are mostly shit out of luck. You would have to individually go figure out which eggs are which. They do not get selected until they are actually units by the Select All Army hotkey. So, for example, Control 1, here's your...
Can't. Need more minerals for that.
Okay, Swan, but I guess that's a good example, is now I've clicked off. In order to reselect the egg, I'd have to manually click the egg. So, but the way it's usually done, I'm gonna get an OV, and I like to just rally overlords out, especially early on, because, I mean, there's not that much going on. But we'll get the OV and just show you the different situations. So, here's my army. Some drones, shift 1. If that's all you're building, shift 1. Now, sometimes you'll be building other sorts of units. I'll go over that as well. Gotta get a couple. Because no matter what, when you're building those units, you're already selecting them because they just go from larvae into eggs. But let's say you want to build a drone and then an overlord, and for some reason you want that drone. You gotta you control click, because otherwise the other larva will be rallied. Control click, shift 1. And this is why Zerg takes so much APM, I'm realizing. Technically, well, now we have the larva in the control group. I do this, thank you, Jonathan, for pointing this out. This is part of why Zerg just naturally has so much APM, because if you're doing anything like this, now say, I want to build an OV, well, I don't want it in the control group with the drone. So essentially, you have to layer your production. Like a drone, control shift 1, and then an OV, you go back to the hatch, build another one. It sounds a lot more complicated than it is. I'd recommend trying it maybe against the AI, just trying to do that with your army, stuff like that. This is part of why you see a lot of players just build only one type of unit at a time, because it's just simpler to use all your larvae, Zerglings, all your larvae, roaches, all your larvae, drones. That does expedite the hotkeying process as well, in many cases. So it is kind of complicated. You got a good point. Good question.
Time for a break.
The second question is, how do you... Oh, wait, that was it. That was the second question. Now something completely original from Blask Bulwark. I'm boring and sad. Shout out to Blask. Hi, Sheba. I'm a TOS player. I come here to bully Zergs in D3 and D2. So, just unrelated, unproductive, and in general, unsavory. So, also, like begets like. Shout out to Sheba. Pax Britannica. Hi, Winter. Oh, this is a fun one. I started playing the game when I watched a previous LOW APM challenge. I want to tell you a bit of a trick to Zerg production, Florencio explained. So Florencio never does anything wrong, but it's very arguable whether he does it right. That is hotkeying your select all larva button to basic Zerg units. So all larva can be any of the units. So you can just press and hold one button. So if you wanted to just mash your hand down on the left side of the keyboard, as opposed to, you know, pressing a button on it, or your DDR pad, I don't think this is better. I think this, well, one, I guess if you're just starting out, maybe, but I can, like, the idea is you want MOOTAS, you press the button that selects your larva and makes MOOTAS. No, I understand what it's saying. So instead of having the larva key just be S, it would be every button you use to make units. So instead of selecting larva and then picking a unit, you would just hit the unit button and build the unit instantly, which on paper sounds pretty good. I've never really tried that, It is a very Florencio solution to a problem no one was having, but that's why Florencio is here. So I give it a tip of the hat and a wag of the pinky toe. And, so. Greg, love the series. What do you think it'd take to make Ultras good? Diet upgrade. What do you think about letting them climb up ledges similar to Colossus? I think that isn't it. I think we tried Ultra Charge. Pretty much everything fun that feels OP is in co-op. Ultra Charge was actually in the Heart of the Swarm beta. It just created so many awkward and kind of clunky scenarios that it did not work in multiplayer. I'm sure high level they would still be bad, but it would be cool. Yes. May I introduce you to co-op, where all the cool things go to live. My proposition is just by reducing the model and hitbox size by 15%, back to the game. If you reduce the model and hitbox size by 15%, you can fit 2 Ultras in a mineral line. Right now, part of the reason Ultras feel so horrible is you can fit approximately 1.8 Ultras in a mineral line, in between the minerals and, like, a base. This is a frame of reference because it's not very rare when Ultras are near a base. What does 1.8 Ultras mean? It means they're just fighting each other and desperately trying to figure out who's going to go first half the time. So I think an Ultraless diet upgrade, maybe if it also reduced their HP as well proportionately, would be the best way to buff Ultras without completely breaking multiplayer. They would be reduced in size, hitbox, and proportionately the splash damage, but at least they could get something done. Maybe Ultras have to, like, go to the Ultraless cavern, and then you gotta keep sending in Zerglings, and the Ultras just start lifting Zerglings with their blades in order to work off that extra water weight. And then sometimes the Zerglings die because the Ultras aren't very careful, but after like 3 minutes, the Ultras come out, and they're faster, and they're smaller because they've gotten so many muscular gains, but they're lean. Okay, they're lean, mean, and smell a little weird, but there you go. That is the buff. The Brotralisk. Alright. Ultralisk workout regimen. We got David. David is back. This is actually the start of about a 15 comment long reply thread that is so long that we wouldn't have room for anything else with it or any time for it. And it's a perfectly, if you guys remember David, the 40-something Terran player, David the Old, as you know, always with some profound comments. An interesting reason not to research burrow. So I point out how lurkers have an independent burrow command, and it makes it easier to just burrow lurkers. But that is not... I'm saying, David, that you can just burrow lurkers whether or not you have burrow. Not that if you research burrow, it screws it up for the rest of them. It doesn't. That's not how... Lurkers have a different burrow command than your average unit that doesn't have a burrow effect. But... good idea, though. Thank you, David. Beckett Industries is no longer in the map pool. Please go over vetoes. Well, I'm not a huge fan. Like, I haven't been vetoing maps for the low APM challenge. At least not this season. Just as a matter of principle. But if I was a Zerg right now, I'd probably veto Blackburn. I'd probably veto Hardwire. And then it's your choice on Pride of Eltaris. That can be a very Skytoss map, even though technically it's good for Zerg. Practically, it's very difficult. So your kind of not standard maps are Blackburn and Pride of Eltaris. Hardwire is a very choke point ramp map. So I would... same for Blackburn. So I would probably, as a generic Zerg, go with those three. But it's kind of dealer's choice. I kind of like playing on the gold base maps, though it makes things a little weird, and obviously you can't put your overlords in exactly the same spot, yada yada. But those are your generic vetoes for the ladder. That prevents the most annoying stuff from especially the other race. I'm a D3 Zerg. Holy fox. I'm a D3 Zerg, and I struggle against 3 base turtle toss, going straight to the golden fleet. I was wondering if it's better to use Viper and Fester. Well, interesting point. So, first, I'll show you how to do it. It's simple. Here you go. Very simple. And by simple, I mean incredibly complicated. Here is Serral. And this is the most robust and decisive dismantling of Skytoss I've ever seen. The Templar are zoned out by the Broodlings. Transfuses. Not quite enough to keep all the Broodlords intact, but more Zerglings. A single Zealot isn't gonna cut it. Not enough. A single Baneling. Serral. Streaming through the gaps. The Archons can't get in, they're too thick! The gold base. Eliminated. Excised. From Max Packs. The Queens! Brenda! Maybe a little much! A little much! Off of creep. The Zerglings had to be dealt with. +3 attack. But Max Pax has already lost a bunch of his supply here. Maybe this is why Serral let the map through. Maybe this, like, this is the most comfortable dismantling of a Skytoss I've ever seen. And it's not like Max Pax was behind. This was a completely, it was a relatively passive game for like 8 minutes. Serral just, well, here he is. Grabs the Oracle. Grabs the Oracle. The Tempest trying to get in range of the Infestors, but the Infestors not to be outdone. Broodlords grab some Tempest, retreats to the Spores. Microbial Shroud protects the Queens. Small Zealot counterattack. Chitinous plating for potential Ultralisks. +3/+3 flyer. The Broodlords. Queens Let's skip to the point here. The summary is patience. The rest of the Queens? He didn't. Working the whole map. Who does that? Oh my god, the Fungals landing on the Templar. Yeah, the Templar getting some feedbacks. The Broodlords can close in. Parasitic Bomb, Fungal Wombo combo. Pulls back to the Spore Crawlers. Is there enough energy on the Vipers? Sniping. Archons moving forward. Microbial Shroud for the Queens. Maneuvers the Corruptors out of range of the Archons and any surviving Templar. The Queens holding the line. The Broodlords pulling back. Nothing left for them to do. Fighting. Parasitic Bomb on the Void Rays. Oh my god. Serral should stop smurfing in professional tournaments. Wow. Easy peasy. I think I'm gonna slow it down. We gotta go bit by bit on this fight. That's insane. That's madness. So this is the simple tutorial. I feel obligated. We're gonna slow it down to normal speed, which is like 2/3. I don't know why that's the slowest speed, but he's brought the Queens back. He has a Queen control group, a Broodlord control group, a Viper control group. He also has a Reinforcements control group.
Field exhausted.
He's got his Corruptors grouped in with his Vipers.
Vespene Geyser completed.
Sending out Changelings. Switching between Broodlords and oh, lands the Fungals, kites back. Broodlords move forward. Queues up parasitic bombs and moves back. Queues up fungals and then shift clicks back. Broodlords move back. Queens transfuses. Thinks about injecting. Realizes maybe he needs to focus on this fight. The Corruptors see the Archons. Move to the side. Microbial Shroud. Infestors dart back. Vipers. Void Rays charge up. Corruptors move back in after the Void Rays get distracted. Oh my god, he's splitting off and queuing up Consume on the Vipers as they run out of energy. Mid-fight! That's what he was doing. But only the Vipers without energy, not the one with energy. That one stays. With a parasitic bomb, and then shift clicks it back. And splits it off to Consume. Brings the Corruptors back in. Max Pax has had enough. And all this the summary is whether it's Infestors or Vipers, I say you're halfway there. You also need Queens, Broodlords, Corruptors, and Spore Crawlers, and then easy peasy. The short version is the vast majority of Protoss won't be using Tempests and Carriers and Void Rays and Templar and doing it with any sort of actual, like, semblance of a control. If you have to choose, I think Vipers are better. Because they can fly, and they're more reliable. Though, without the Infestors, it is hard to ever take a good fight. Without the Broodlords, you're kind of vulnerable to the ground army. But a lot of the time, he says, back in my day, we used to build 20 Infestors, fungal one time, and launch 20,000 infested Terrans. Well, I don't think that was particularly great either. It's hard, but I think if you have to choose, it's Vipers. Though if you can do both, and many Protoss get lazy and don't even add in the ground army. They just think Carriers will solve all their problems, and they never have to do anything else. And in that case, you can just win with Corruptors as well. How important would you rate using camera hotkeys for bases? I would rate it 7 Zerglings out of 8. I've always used the minimap to go to a specific base. It's like using the minimap, except with a hotkey and quicker. And you don't have to move your mouse. So it is just better. It is entirely worth, for all races, I think, using camera locations. It is worth stopping whatever you're doing on the ladder and figuring it out right now. It's not just for Zerg with injects, it's just in general to be able to move around. It helps a lot, especially if you can just straight up integrate it instead of thinking about it. Where are you getting these cute Ling shirts? Carbot on Teespring? Carbot animations. Go watch every single video and then check any of the description. Question. What are important drone counts to remember? Struggle to remember with 1 base, 2 base. How many drones should be in gas and when? So that's a big question. Your general rule. Your stopping points. Or if they're on 1 base, 30 drones is pushing it. You need to figure out if they're all in you. If they're on 2 base, 50 drones. If they're on 3 base, usually you go up to that 75 or 80, which is close to the max. So, and then when it comes to gas, it depends on the build, but generally, your first gas is usually early on, around 20. After about 40 drones, you add on at least 2 more, and then past 60 drones is when you usually go above 3 gas. So, a drone every 20, a gas every 20 drones, and then for every base they have, 30, 50, 70, I think are decent stopping points. Very general. But if you find yourself, like for example, you're on 3 base, you get 50 drones, and they're sitting on 2 base, you might want to think twice before building 12 more. The most you can use very efficiently is 44 on 2 base, though technically, since you can go up to 24 on each base before being better off long distance mining, technically you can have like 50, but really 50 drones on 3 base means you have a better economy than someone on 2 base in general. So that's when you need to think about defense. And then past that, it's a little more situational. But I think aiming for that 50 worker mark in general for all the races, and specifically for Zerg, and then filling in the blanks is the most important. Jose Armando Gomez Rocabato says, we are all Bronze League heroes now, with an emoji I can only describe as solemn. Did you add this because you just wanted to say his name and make fun of the emoji? No. But like 95% of it, so... Here we are. And with that, we're no longer Bronze League heroes. Another episode of the Low APM Challenge. Instead, we are heroes of every rank, of every strategy and league and race. There are heroes everywhere. The world could always use more heroes because there's no other Blizzard games that are going to reliably find them. Even the ones with it in them. Thank you for watching the Low APM Challenge Zerg. I look forward to your questions. I hope I made your day and your games a little bit better. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill. Oh yeah, we got a YouTube super chat. I'm not sure. I get money in the membership thing, which I realized is not just live streaming, but also for videos. You can just have people give you money, even if it's, since I can't live stream because Twitch is horrible. I mean, because Twitch is so dedicated, it likes to keep its streamers on its platform and forbid them from being on other platforms. You don't have to stream to enable it, which I just learned. So, also, if you made it this far, you might be interested. So, yeah, stay chill.